1,000 miles, give or take a few, but what's distance when love is a bond of kindred hearts? My Aunt Jean was as unique a character as they come. How heart-wrenching now to imagine our world without her in it. She embraced life to its fullest. I now sense a void that seems nothing can fill, but that my heart goes back to bygone times. Fond memories of her zeal that I will never forget. The richness of her spirit will always be a part of who I am. Her legacy now lives on within all those she touched with her special Aunt Jean love. She was a nurse, not as one who gives shots with sternness of voice, but as one whose smile was medicine for the hurting soul, tender-hearted, overflowing with compassion, as she understood exactly how painful it really was. She had a servant's heart, always racing to do for others. Doing only something was never enough, but to give and do until there was nothing left to give or anything left to do. All those years at the VA hospital. Why, everybody knows you can make more money in a private hospital, but it was never about the money, but about the inexhaustible service to people who served us as a nation. She wanted us to understand it was simply not enough to give back, but it was our duty to do so. She never had any children of her own, but helped raise 3 generations of other people's children. Often seen reading a book, telling a story, or singing a song to whatever child shared her space. All of us children fell in love with Aunt Jean. She favored the girls over the boys, for sure. My sisters and cousins were privileged to pajama parties at Aunt Jean's small apartment. In preparation, she would take them to the grocery store and let them pick out whatever you wanted for a snack. I remember my sisters talking endlessly about how cool Aunt Jean's tiny apartment was. I'm still jealous. She was the next to the youngest of the sisters, as we affectionately called them, Irene, Oli, Rada Mae, Jean, and Nell. They are and were each special in their own ways. But bring them together, and it was nothing short of an old-fashioned hoedown. Yes, there's going to be singing and dancing, there must be. The beauty was that as they grew more senior, they never lost their youthful enthusiasm. It was as if together they were, for a while, all children again. I remember a story of bored teenage girls and some gestures they made to passing train engineers in Elkins. And I once caught Jean and Nell skinny dipping in our family pool at the break of dawn. What is it we say? Once seen, there are some things you can never unsee. But how blessed I am to have a portion of their genes in my own gene pool. And Jean had a deep and an abiding faith and love for her Jesus. She was a prayer warrior to the 10th degree. She witnessed to her faith by recounting the many times with absolute assurance God had answered her prayers. She would tell me with conviction of times when Stephanie, as Joe said, was halfway around the world, literally, and the Holy Spirit would nudge her of possible dangers, and so she would begin her prayer vigil until she received word of Steph's safety. She told me, as a matter of fact, that it was her prayers that brought Stephanie home safe again. She embraced and practiced Christ's words that we ought never to faint, but always to pray. She served Christ Church, always faithful in attending and giving to God's kingdom. As an example, she would attend the early service at Sequoia United Methodist Church just so she could rush back to Butterfield here to welcome and to greet people here at the community service in the afternoon. As the faithful do say, every time the doors were open, for as long as she was able, she was there. She never wasted a Sunday with self-indulgence, but set an example of her love for Christ transforms us into worship and service for him. How sweet to her ear must Christ's words have been, "Well done, thy good and faithful servant." I want for a moment to interject my own experience